Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Tom Stewart here. I'm with Aja Holiday. Our guest today is Heather Loveland Button, and this is MaidCentral Partner Profiles. Yay.
Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So,
Um,
yeah, this is our newer sort of partner profile series. This is our second one. So, very excited. Heather, thank you for joining us for our second one. Just kind of letting us get to know some of our partners a little bit better. Yeah, I guess tell us, what did you do before this? What was your real
well,
job, your last real job?
where are you? Well, let's back up a little. Where are you,
Oh, just
Heather?
kidding. Where are you? Tell us about your business a little bit.
Well, I'm in my office, but I am upstate
In
New
your
York,
office is located where?
central New York. So we are in a very small town with about 3,000 people outside of Utica, New York. And we have an office here. And then we also have an office right outside of Syracuse. So we have the two locations.
And Syracuse is a larger, more metropolitan area.
Right.
Got a
And what
big
is your business called?
university there.
We are Home Sweet Home Cleaning and Gardening LLC.
Awesome. How much gardening do you guys do? I've always been curious.
So we used to do quite a bit. Then I got pregnant and had a baby. Then I got pregnant again and had another baby. So we did put that department on the back burner. We're stewing if we're going to drop that permanently or if we're going to bring that back. So we're talking about it.
So
Okay.
help me out a little bit. I mean, gardening, does that mean like growing corn and tomatoes, or does that mean like landscaping? What is gardening?
Sure. So we set it up basically the same way that we set up our recurring cleanings, where we would do a big clean out, and then we would show up on a regular recurring schedule, and we would focus on their landscape and their perennial gardens. So we didn't mess much with vegetables. I did have an organic vegetable farm in my past life. But this was just focus on keeping the fronts of the houses or the backs of the homes, the perennial gardens, up to maintenance level and keeping them nice, just like we do with the homes.
Okay. You weren't like cutting grass or anything like that. So it
No.
was like maintaining the plants, the
Planter
vegetation.
boxes and
Yeah.
That's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. It was going very well. We got a client base just like we had our recurring clients for our cleaning. It's seasonal and it's hard to scale. It's hard to train people on it. So I have a botany background. And it's hard to find people that know the difference between a perennial and a weed. So when I got pregnant and started doing, focusing on my family, I was like, I'm going to put this on the back burner and we'll see what the next few years brings.
So being in like middle of state of New York, I imagine that's seasonal too, isn't it?
Yeah, it is seasonal.
Okay. Whereas people get their homes cleaned all the time.
Yeah, they do.
not a big snowbird population up there that's going back and forth too much, I'm guessing.
We get a few people. We have some people that go to Florida for the winter.
Okay, yeah. Definitely.
So botany background. What did you do back when you had a real job?
Well, let's see. Before I worked here, I've basically done a lot of odd jobs, and that's kind of where this whole idea came from, was like, let's take these jobs that are actually turning into something. But I never have had a job really outside of like odd jobs. I have a horticulture and a plant science degree, graduated, traveled a whole bunch, and then ended up back in New York when my mom got sick back in 2012. My mom was diagnosed with breast cancer, so came home and tried very hard to leave again, and then met my husband. And so here I am. But I've never really had a job outside of just picking up things like cleaning, or I was like a personal assistant for a long time, waitressing. So I bounced around from these types of jobs.
Wow. Okay.
That's
How long
interesting.
how long have you been running your house cleaning business?
Since October of 2014, we got our DBA.
So just about 10 years. That's cool.
Yeah. Yep.
How did it get started? Where did you start?
Yeah. So I'm actually third generation house cleaner.
Okay.
So my grandmother and then my mom and some of my aunts all did it. So I've really been in the house cleaning industry since I was about, well, let's say 14, because I think that's the legal working age.
We'll go with that.
So it's in my blood. Customer service and things like that. I grew up working at restaurants. So when I came home, my mom was sick, like I mentioned, and she had a few jobs, and so I took them over so that they didn't have to see a lull in service, and I wanted to make sure that she had something to return to.
Mhm.
And I was like, I really think there's something here, but you are definitely not charging enough. So my mom is healthy. So she was going to come back and she took a few of them back. And I was like, well, I like that one. And I had the organic farm at the time as well and was trying to do it all. And I was like, I really think if I get employees that this is something that I can turn into a career. And I really think there's a lot of good money here.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're in the process of proving that to be true.
We are. With the help of MaidCentral.
There we go.
Very good. Tell us about that. How long have you been using MaidCentral?
So we are new as of August 2023.
Okay.
That's when you went live, I'm guessing.
Yeah. So we did it all very quickly. There wasn't.
I think I had your sign up date in May last year, starting seeing some job checks in July. Is when I think your first week was closed, was mid-July last year. So yeah, just about a year. That's awesome.
Yeah. And we kind of bit it off with chunks. I want to say that when we started, we decided like, we're going to run payroll through there. And then we're going to start our scheduling through there. And just kind of did it a little bit here and there until it was like, all right, let's go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely looked like there was like a ramp up period. I was looking really in depth today. So I was really curious, just like, because everybody's story and ramp up is a little bit different. So I started to see some data in there, and even as early as May, actually.
Okay.
Very little though. It was like, there was clearly just like a couple of like test stuff happening in there. And then June started to look a little more normal, but not quite up to standard. And then July, yeah, it looked like everything looked pretty consistent. Lots of equal weeks, closing out the week and stuff like that. And I'll explain, I guess, for anybody who's watching who maybe doesn't know what closing out the week is. In MaidCentral, we kind of lock all the data down on a weekly basis. It populates a lot of our reports, helps us get really good data out of things. We get some of our core KPIs get populated with the closing out the week. So I think I started to see you guys closing that out mid-July last year. So I think you guys might have done it faster than you think, than even you remember, that you ramped that up in maybe about like a 5-week period heading into July, actually, which is awesome.
Okay. All right. That makes sense now that you're saying it. It's kind of a whirlwind, and I do have a type A personality. So I was making everybody do things in 2 places for a little while. So I can't remember exactly when we pulled off the Band-Aid.
Yeah. What were some of the first things that you remember, like, switching from your old software? Some of the first things you remember just being easier.
This is something about me. Is I didn't have a software before MaidCentral. I did it all with Google Calendar and
so everything.
Asana, which I don't know if everybody's familiar with Asana, but it's basically like a task management system like ClickUp and Monday. So people will ask me, like, what do you like about MaidCentral more than, these other platforms? And I'm like, I don't know, but I'll tell you what, I felt like I could get rid of one person in my office as soon as we started using it.
That's huge. That's gigantic. You really took this is the only software I'm ever going to need to heart.
Yeah, I knew, there's a Wayne Gretzky saying, like you don't shoot something about like you go where the puck's gonna be, right?
Skate to where the puck is going.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I knew that we were going to need MaidCentral. So when I will tell you, I was like 6 months postpartum, laying on my couch, baby in arms, and watching the YouTube videos when I was like, something's got to change. And I actually cried watching the MaidCentral videos.
Good cry, bad cry. What kind of cry are we talking?
It was a good cry because I was like, this is exactly what we need. And I was in awe because we were doing a lot of what MaidCentral does is makes all the reports so easy. And like I had a spreadsheet with like the master schedule, but anytime we added somebody or somebody left our client list, I had to go in and edit it. So it was like a lot of the reports that you guys have, not all of them, probably a small amount actually, because I'm still learning. I had us doing it, but it was such a process that it was like, I cried. I was just so relieved.
Mm-hmm. I feel that. So I guess, did you just find us on YouTube? How did you discover MaidCentral? Where did you first hear about us then? I've never heard this. This is great.
Where did I find MaidCentral? Well, I'm part of the CBF program.
Okay.
So, and you guys are a hit with them, of course. So I want to say that's where I heard about it. And then I'm like the biggest skeptic ever, I don't trust anything. So I'm like, well, like, how good is it? So
let's go down the rabbit hole.
So, I mean, we're popular in CBF. I mean, we've got friends.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Definitely.
That's what we like to hear.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's funny hearing it from somebody else because I think I had the same sort of reaction over. Oh, she asked a lot of questions. So you were the question asker going around to all the tables. What do you got?
Oh yeah.
Tell me more.
Yeah. I see Tammy. Tammy, I do ask a lot of questions. Hi, Tammy. So I'm sorry, you were asking about. How
no, I was just saying. Yeah, how you found us. So through CBF and then just kind of going down the YouTube channel and really figuring out, seeing for yourself what all things that you could get from it. I can relate to that a lot just as a user in my past life as well, kind of going from spreadsheet to, for the master schedule and having it in the system and some of those reports and removing that not only being able to remove like a whole position of activities of things that need to be done, but then just the reporting happening automatically. Are you including that in some of that position that you were able to remove, or is that on top of that, just on your own task list, being able to kind of reduce?
Yeah. Well, we've had a change in our office, so I've gotten pulled back in, but there's a lot less that we have to do. But I think like from the owner perspective, my mind is so much free. My mind is more free because of MaidCentral, because when you have all these things, did they update the scheduling sheet? That's what we used to call like our old version of the master schedule. Did they do this? And like, I'm a very organized, systematic person, and I give my team lists, and you start at the top. If we have a client that cancels, you work these steps and it's all in Asana, pretty straightforward. But the removal of human error from the system and then like the micromanagement, it felt like I could breathe again because I wasn't worried. Did all the steps get followed? It's just automatic and everything's so interconnected that it really brought me so much peace that like I wasn't stressed to the max anymore.
Do you sleep better at night?
I do. I really honestly do, because the task list, it is like a third of what it used to do. Or you used to be, I mean. So, we used to, and we've updated all of our SOPs or playbooks, however the new age people call it. But, I would have a SOP for a client canceling service kind of thing. and it would be like 10 subtasks under it, you know? And now there's 4, and it probably doesn't need that many, but I am a little anal. So it's just amazing. It's amazing.
I think it's going to be like a common thing because I just got a little teary-eyed hearing that you sleep better at night. Like, I think I'm going to get a little teary-eyed during every one of these partner profiles because I just love hearing that kind of stuff. It just gets me very excited for you guys.
But you know, Heather, we've heard that before from people where I remember Keith Clem, he's a gentleman who owns a clean business in Texas. He's been doing it for a long time. He said for the first time in 20 some years, he's able to actually sleep at night without worrying about, what was going to happen the next day. So,
yeah, it's so true. Like even recently we've always done like the following day reminders, the 1-day reminders. And we finally did the 3-day. And the reason we hadn't pulled the trigger quicker was because we felt like we were still, is the schedule ready 3 days in advance? And I'm like, well, it needs to be. So we need to make sure it's always clean. It's helped us. It's just tightened up so many systems. But the now with the 3-day text message, the removal of that stress of the last minute, like, oh, I forgot you guys are coming tomorrow. The removing that stress level where like as an owner of the company now, you're worried about your staff, you're worried about your revenue, you're worried about like, oh, now there's a gap in the middle of their day. There's so many thoughts that go through your mind that those 3-day reminders, it's really taken off like that. I can't find the right word right now, but just like the level of anxiety that comes in when somebody cancels their appointment the next day.
Mm-hmm.
And a little bit of that like volatility too in the schedule that, the idea that you couldn't send a 3-day reminder previously because the schedule was volatile was able to change up until the day of so much that you didn't feel like you could give proper expectations by sending a 3-day reminder. I mean, that's huge too, that your schedule has become consistent enough and capable enough that you can do a 3-day reminder now. That's gigantic. I mean,
It really is.
Have you stopped having scheduling dreams? When did you stop having scheduling dreams? Because I think that's one of the big effects of MaidCentral too, that you stop thinking about, dreaming about the schedule all the time.
Yeah. And like, so I just moved a cleaner into the office. I know the cleaning world probably just gasped like, oh no, you did not.
Oh no, that is everything that I am a big supporter of moving from the field up. It's a lot less to train.
Yeah. So he came in here today and he was like, I think I was at that client's house yesterday. And he was like, was I there? And I didn't know because my brain is like freed. I'm like, I'm not sure. Now, 6 months ago, I could have told you where every single cleaner was all week. It's like you were so focused on the schedule all of the time. And I used to think that scheduling was a full-time job for cleaning companies because it was. When we used Google Calendar, it was.
Yeah.
So now the fact that I think it's like a 25% of, we just hit 1 million run rate, and I'm hoping to be this month we might hit 100,000 in revenue, which will be fantastic. So for a company our size, for the scheduling aspect to be about 25% of a scheduler's day is such a huge shift from where we were. And I know from other softwares that they're still spending so much time on it.
Yeah, I tell people that with MaidCentral, scheduling is not a full-time position anymore.
It's not.
It doesn't need to be. You're able to do a quarter of your day or less, and even a quarter of your day once you really get things going. That's even high. It turns into a 10 hours a week type thing where it's a quarter of your week sort of thing that you're maybe spending 2 hours one day and then an hour every other day on it sort of thing. And that's on the high end. Right. I think that's great. And that means that you're really taking into account the things that we really want to see from people, that you're able to create this really good, consistent schedule where you're able to send out 3-day reminders without feeling like you're setting unrealistic expectations. You're spending less time on scheduling, which means that what are you spending more time on? What are you using that time on now?
Exercise.
There you go.
As of next Wednesday, I will be taking off every Wednesday to be with my 3-year-old and my 1-year-old, which will make me cry.
That's
No,
huge.
it's so big. Networking. I do a lot more networking. I've joined organizations locally in my community. I'm going to a town meeting tonight to talk about the state of our commerce here in our small town. Home renovations. I'm going to be gardening. Like, I'm dreaming about my gardening this year, my personal garden. And I haven't really wanted to garden in the last couple of years. So as far as the business goes, I'm cleaned up a lot of our systems. I'm managing from a much higher level where I have the information and the data that actually can guide me, where before I was like, yeah, I think so, or that makes sense. Where now I'm like, oh no, that is exactly what we need to do. And I know that because I have this data.
I want to just like pause on that for just a second. You said I'm managing at a higher level now because I know what everything's at. Like, I know the information that I need to know, and that's gigantic. Like,
Right.
that you can see that not only are you able to spend more time thinking about, networking and on your own self, on your family. I mean, people don't just become entrepreneurs and start these businesses just to start their businesses. They want to give time back to themselves, right? It's like you're really seeing that happen, and that's incredible. But then also on the business side of things, you're like, not only am I spending less time on the business, I'm operating at a much higher capacity.
Right.
So to help people understand the difference, what were you spending time on before you made the change? What did the typical day look like? What went away, I guess, is what I think some people, including myself, would like to know.
So a lot of scheduling, a lot of small tasks that like MaidCentral just does in a jiffy. So I was mentioning, like, if a client cancels services, we can just take care of that really quickly. Where before it's like I had to update my scheduling sheet. I had to, gosh, I don't even really remember now, but I know that there were like 10 tasks.
Okay.
A lot of micromanaging, honestly, because there were so many steps that had to be done. So it was like, did you do this? Or checking over that it got done, and then that it got done correctly. So now it's like, somebody cancels services tomorrow. There's like the extra step is like making sure both service sets, because we do have a lot of rotation clients. So there's just a few steps that I'm like, make sure you don't forget that. I think I was spending most of my time just worrying about, did it get done correctly? And is somebody going to mess it up?
Okay.
Because there were so many different places you had to look at and so many different steps that had to be done that it was easy to miss a step. And so not only did you have to go through and make sure that all those steps got taken care of, but also did they get done correctly? And, they're all in different places, and especially coming from, not having a software, so that it was in all sorts of places that you had to track it in. I can't imagine.
Yeah. So we used to, remove them from the scheduling sheet and then turn those cells green to indicate that that's now an open spot for future recurring clients that we sign on. So it was like, if they didn't turn it green, then the scheduler wouldn't be able to quickly at a glance figure it out. It was just, I felt like I was always chasing behind people and cleaning things up. And like, that is a really stressful place to be for everybody. But then on top of that, for like a new mom, it's like, I'm already doing that at home. I'm doing a lot of babysitting. I'm doing a lot of cleaning up. And it's like, to come to work and not just be at this really CEO level and be down and chasing everybody around. What a waste of my great energy.
Would you ever have considered yourself a CEO before? Like, would you have used that term for yourself?
No.
Would you consider yourself a CEO now?
Yes.
We're closer to it.
I was, and then we lost somebody in our office, and then I had to slide back in. Ask me that again in like a month, and I will say,
when you train somebody up. But yeah, like right now you're helping cover for somebody that you lost a position, but in general, you're able to consider yourself a CEO now. That's that's gigantic on its own too.
Yeah.
Oh, I love this.
The person I'm training, he was in the office today, and I was like, he said, I had him listen to some calls this morning while I brought my kids to daycare. And I was like, just listen to the calls, just listen to the sales calls. That's what I want you to do for the first hour until I get there. And so I came in, how was it? Oh, it was good. I just don't understand how are you doing the math to provide the quotes? So I was like, oh, MaidCentral does all of that. Let me show you how we used to do it though. And I brought up my spreadsheet and had the ranges of the homes down the left side and our options across the top. And here's the initial deep clean prices. And then down here's the maintenance clean. And sometimes they would want to add on and take off. So you'd have to put them on hold. I was like, it was to provide a quote before MaidCentral was like, it was embarrassingly long to the point where sometimes I'm like, I'm just going to have to work this out and I'll give you a call back. Where now it's like, I can do it while I'm texting my husband and, like it takes no thought process whatsoever. And that is just incredible.
I think the dream of having the one call sale one call sale, you finish the entire sales process in one phone call, that's a dream. That's one of those things where it's like, you're able to talk to a person, give them a quote, put them on the schedule. And without the right tools in place, that's impossible. Where you might be able to give them the quote, and even then you might have to call them back and give them the quote. And then you have to find a spot to schedule them. And that might take a little bit of time where it's like, let me put you on a brief hold while I go double check a couple of things. And you're looking through weeks on the Google Calendar to make sure that you aren't going to double book somebody, or looking through your scheduling sheet to make sure that that's actually a really open spot, versus having, all of that information at your fingertips all in one tool. Like that's awesome. And text your husband at the same time.
It really doesn't take, being talkative and making a sale that's always been a strong suit of mine. But doing all that and then like having the paper all over your desk, and it was really stressful. And now to be able to like quickly look at the customer efficiency. Like I sold 3 recurrings today, and I was training somebody and he was like, I'm like, just go to this report, go to that report. Then you're going to look at the master. It's right there. And like, you'll get it. It takes a little time, but like once you've got it, you can do it. And it's so quick. It's amazing. Yeah.
So a couple of things that I noticed while I was just kind of like looking at your stats, looking at some comparison things. One of the really big ones that I saw was your customer attrition that improved significantly in the last year. So we something that will come up commonly in our conversations during our partner profiles, but we quartile out our MaidCentral partners. So, our bottom 25% of people in certain KPIs are 4th quartile, 3rd quartile, 2nd quartile, and 1st quartile. But your customer attrition went from 4th quartile a year ago to 1st quartile now. Yeah. So what are some of the things that you feel like you've changed in the last year to really drop that from losing almost 11% of your customers on a monthly basis almost to 3.5% now, which is like the dream.
Which is really an awesome place to be,
Yeah, that's like a dream number.
That's awesome. So I guess I didn't realize that we were doing as well.
Surprise.
Yeah, what a good surprise. So I would think that a huge change for us personally was being able to just the consistency. So a lot of people aren't going to be able to relate to this exact thing because they haven't ever tried to run $1 million company off of Google Calendar, but it like duplicates and then it gets super messy. And if you change it to this person one time, I do not suggest anybody ever try that route. But now it's like I can stick a client onto a cleaner and it lives there permanently. So that being able to run. So say that cleaner requests next Friday off, I can go in and see which technicians have been there before. If we've ever sent a different technician and say like, oh, okay, Haley's been there before. She has subbed in for Nancy. So let's send Haley again. And that consistency of like not just sending anybody, I think has been a huge improvement with MaidCentral. I love being able to quickly see like, okay, these are the people who have been there. It's not going to be a completely new face. So I would say that is probably one of the top factors in improving our attrition. Another is going to be the scorecards. The scorecards, there's always this dream that like, well, I'll call and check in on them when we have more time, right?
And the scorecards are like a quality survey that go out after every cleaning.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, and we always think that we're going to someday have all this more time, or that like,
Between the 10 items of every canceled customer, we'll figure some time to call these people up.
I mean, I'm definitely an optimistic person, but so now our ops manager and it happens often, I think, well, not often, but it's happened a couple of times where they'll say like, oh, I'm happy, but they went from a 4 to a 3. And we'll call the next day like, hey, did something change? Is there something that was missed? We want to make note in your account. And sometimes they'll be like, oh, I didn't mean that. And I'm like, did you just have a change of heart? Because I think you know what you're doing. But no matter what, even if it goes from a 4 to a 3, we're calling, so we are any chance that they're not happy, we're calling. I think it also opens up a platform to vent quickly. So it's not, they're getting that as soon as the texts leave. So it's not like they have to wait the next day to call the office. And a lot of people aren't comfortable, Aja, I know you talk a lot about like the generation thing where people, if somebody has to call in to book a cleaning, they're not gonna do that. They want to do it at 11 o'clock at night from their bed while they're stressed out about that. I gotta clean this house. So the fact that people don't have to be considered confrontational, I'm quoting, but you can't see it, that they don't have to be considered confrontational and let you know exactly how they feel. And I would say everybody's been respectful. It's not like they're being belligerent or anything, but it's an open forum for them to speak freely and openly about exactly how they feel about their services. And then the fact that we're following up the next day, if it's anything under a 4, also lets them know, like, we have our eyes on this. This isn't just like a set it and forget it, and we don't care about how it's actually going.
Oh, when you mentioned that customer attrition rate going from a little over 11% to down to like 3.5%, one of the things that we teach is that you can take like 1 and divide it by that percentage, and that gives you the average number of months that a recurring customer is going to be with your business. So your average number of months when it was like over 11 wound up being less than 9 months on average for a recurring customer. Getting it down to 3.5%, the average number of months is now over 28. So you went from less than 9 to over 28 months of service. So what is that? That's like 3 times as much, right? Yeah. Over 3 times. You're getting 3 times as much lifetime value out of a customer now than you did before by lowering that attrition rate.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I mean, just like even more on that, that's less fighting for new customers to fill in those spots. That's less marketing to fill out those customers. That's longer relationships, better relationships with them. Like that number, especially when you hit that 1 million mark, like especially, I say especially, but just in my head, I see that as an especially point, but it's just like putting a stopper on that back door just means you're fighting that much less for each little bit.
Based on, and Aja pulled some numbers and she's got you at like 3.2 million, by the way. So I think you might be doing better than what you're giving yourself credit for.
No, I've got 1.2.
I'm sorry, 1.2.
Hey, 1.2. We can manifest that.
Well, but you're on your way because
you're on your way.
From a percentage standpoint, you've grown your business about 60% in revenue
in a year.
Since you've been on MaidCentral. Yeah.
In less than a year. I mean, in 10 months.
Which is crazy.
In the time that I pulled, which I tried to look for a time where it looked like things got really steady, where you guys were using it really consistently. That's why I knew that June date or that July date so clearly, was because I went through and really wanted to make sure everything was really consistent to give you good comparison numbers. And you were looking at, about $750,000, just under that, last July. And now in April, you're looking at that 1.2, and that's crazy. That's so cool.
Yeah.
And you have more time to go home and take Wednesdays off. And I'm just like, ugh.
If we were doing a word cloud from this discussion, consistency would be the biggest word in that word cloud. I think that's
Yeah.
part of the secret sauce. That's a metric that we measure inside of MaidCentral that is really underappreciated. But we saw this, we talked to Brian Morton a couple of weeks ago, and we're seeing again in your business. I've done a lot of things to maintain a higher level of consistency, and that's reflecting itself in growth in revenue, growth in customer retention, lower employee turnover rate. That went down a meaningful amount too.
Yeah, and we've gotten that feedback. So we do a lot of checking in with our cleaners, which is another thing that MaidCentral has freed us up to do, is we are no longer behind on our quarterly check-ins. So that's another point. But they have said, like, especially the ones that have been with us for a couple of years, like, we just feel like we've gotten to know our clients a lot better because we're going to the same ones consistently. Where before it'd be like, I'll just delete this one. I think this is who went there. And I wasn't I had a clock-in system. So we were using like T-sheets and switched to QuickBook Times. So but I would have to have ran a report for each job. And then the other thing is the technician preference. That may have been the video that made me cry that late night holding my baby, because so I wasn't doing the scheduling. I am right now very temporarily, but I used to be like, oh my God, you can't send that person there, or you have to make sure Stacy goes to that job. And I would be like, how did they not know that? Of course they don't know that, because they don't have the mind of an owner where we can keep all these little tidbits about all of our clients in there. So that may have been the one that made me cry, because I was like, oh my God, it's gonna give them a flag if Stacy doesn't go there. In addition to the being able to mark my VIPs as well, so being able to put that icon on there. So if we do have a call in, or if we do have to bump things, being like, you do not bump that person. That is a VIP.
Heather, we had a meeting today, kind of a planning meeting. We do it every quarter. And one of the things that we went through an exercise of identifying, the things that make residential cleaning different from a lot of other home services. And what other home service really has a preference and dispreference for technicians? I mean, it really doesn't matter in other services.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, but they certainly do care in this industry.
I remember so clearly. I can almost if I had a calendar in front of me, I could tell you the date, but it was the first week in December, the year that we switched to MaidCentral, 2019. And I remember very clearly the first night that I didn't have a scheduling dream, that I didn't plan out what was going to happen the next day if somebody called out. Because I had taken the time in that 5 weeks of us being live or whatever to add all the preferences and dispreferences and tags that we had created and whatnot. And I knew that all of it was with every tag and every preference that I added, it just floated out of my brain. It floated away, and there was some empty space for other things to happen. And I just remember so vividly, waking up that morning and being like, I didn't have a scheduling dream.
My goodness.
That was another thing. I've never heard that term used before.
A scheduling dream?
Right.
Have you never been, you've probably never been a full-time scheduler.
It was a while ago.
Yeah. Schedulers have scheduling dreams. You just start seeing things moving around the calendar.
Yeah. And I never thought I would get over, I just mentioned this to somebody in Texas this last week. I never thought I would get over it, because Google Calendar's 9 to 5, up and down, and MaidCentral's the other direction. And it doesn't cross my mind at all now because I'm so used to it. But yeah, when I first switched over, that was the thing that gave me am I going to be able to get used to this? There's a lot of things. Schedulers are very particular, that's why we like the puzzle and we like to have things neat and orderly. So I've definitely had my fair share of scheduling dreams.
And now for you to be able to know that you are literally temporarily scheduling, that you don't know who cleaned what house yesterday, that you are just holding on to this until the next person can be trained, that you trust that whoever fills this position has the tools to, keep that consistency going for your customers. That to me is just so incredible.
Right. I feel like I could, so this is a huge thing, is the fact that I feel like I can pass that off, where before it was how am I going to ever teach anybody this system? Now it's it's so clear cut that I think as we grow, I have a vision to have, 5, 10, however many salespeople. And I imagine them all on the calls and they're booking cleaning after cleaning after cleaning. And they can just look at the calendar and be like, there's an opening. Where it's not obvious like that with a lot of softwares, where you can be like, okay, on the 26th of April, we can fit this, 12-hour deep clean. And they hang up and the next one gets booked, so it's and I really think that this is just such a scalable software that is going to be a vision that comes true. And it's going to be very easy to not have to communicate internally and just get it on the calendar and just move through it quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I always say that we only need any salesperson really only needs three reports open at a time. And really they only need to use 2 of those. Honestly, if you've got a good enough system going, they only need 2 of them. There's 2 optional. I say there's 4 total, 2 required, 2 optional, essentially. And as long as you're using those ones, you can book anything, one single call. So,
I also wanted to mention something about just going back to how I used to spend my time and how I spend it now. I can't come up with these quotes whenever I'm live like this because it is a little nerve wracking.
Sorry, we're all looking at you.
Just don't worry about it.
But being able to see your revenue in the top right corner and knowing when I looked at April, I know the capacity that we can sell. So I know when when it is time to put a little pressure on my sales team and say hey, we still have $6,000 worth of availability on the schedule for the next, for the rest of April. I'd like to see that booked by the end of this week. Let's get some ideas on how we can get that filled or whatever the case may be. I like my calendar completely full a week out, which from my understanding is a little overkill. I heard some people say 2 to 3 days and I'm oh boy, I cannot handle that. I like a week.
I like 1 to 2 weeks. That's my help. That's my safe zone. I would love 2 weeks. I mean, it gives a sense of value to new recurring services. Ooh, people are waiting 2 weeks for this cleaning service. Yeah, put me down.
Yeah, that's true.
I like that. I mean, a week, not more than 2 weeks, but between that 1 to 2 week range always feels, it gives the right value, level to the people. It kind of reduces the people with too high of expectations of being able to be really last minute, because we don't really want those people that expect that super last minute.
Right.
You don't want to say, hey, you want your home? We can clean your home today if you want us to. You don't want to
we don't want to set that expectation. That's not it. So that 1 to 2 just feels like it brings the right type of customer in that are willing to wait that week to 2 weeks and understand that that's because of the value that we're bringing. So I'm with you there. I'm right on there.
I guess I'm more of the camp of we can relax a little bit. The pressure doesn't have to be so on. But I do understand what you're saying. But I wanted to mention about the that knowing what your revenue is going to be and to be able to plan for that, and to be able to the forecasting of it and knowing how to manage your team. Okay, we need to really increase our hiring right now. We need our interviewing slots need to go up 100% this week. We're this full, or whatever the case may be. That has really brought back to that like high level management.
I love it. I'm going to give you one extra report to use for that future revenue predictability. It's kind of an underutilized report, but I think it's really helpful. It's on the kiosk dashboard.
Okay.
I can't stop teaching. I just can't.
No, I
can't pull it out. So the kiosk dashboard, there's a tab on that is called future revenue, and it shows you the next 7 days of revenue and what it was compared to the 7 days prior. So if you have like a last minute cancellation or something on it, especially as a salesperson, being able to watch that and know if they have a last minute spot to fill, you can watch that, your salesperson can watch it. It's just one of those reports that I recommend kind of having open and kind of referring to a couple of times a day just to see if something got canceled by somebody else or skipped or whatever. And if there's any last minute availability to fill up, just because you like to keep that 7 days full, that one's a really good one because it keeps a rotating 7 days for you.
And if the number's smaller than it was 7 days prior, it shows up red, which is kind of an indicator that you need to do something.
Yeah, that's something canceled in the last.
Don't want to see red numbers on that report.
Yeah. So that one's just a little helpful underutilized report for you.
I'm excited to know about it.
And just, gosh, I forgot one more thing. When you said that you hired this guy out of the field and you went, oh, other people probably gasp at that. I was a cleaner and was hired out of the field.
Right.
And it worked out okay.
It worked out. It worked out
okay. Now.
So I'm going to say, like, sometimes you don't know what talent is hiding in your field. And they, especially as a salesperson too, they're going to be able to sell that like so well because they know exactly what goes into it. They know the processes. They can answer all the questions without having to be taught it because they've literally been in the trenches doing it. Right. So I think there's a lot of really good potential of hiring out of the field.
I agree. I think, we just have to make sure that it's a decision that we're making for the right reason.
Not out of desperation, out of potential.
That's right.
And, if part of the interviewing process, that's one of the things that you should be assessing. I mean, not everybody you hire for a cleaning professional necessarily, has all of the traits necessary to be successful on your support staff, but sometimes they do. And if you're looking for that as part of the interviewing process, I mean, that's something that, can create opportunities to bring people into the office when you have a little extra supply, I guess, a little extra capacity, and some really good things can happen. I've seen a lot of great success stories by bringing people, starting off as a cleaning technician and grooming them to take on more responsibility in the business.
Sometimes people just burn out and they turn to cleaning just to kind of refuel for a little bit. And, if you know what their experience is and what other potential they might have when that burnout phase kind of fades. Right. That's what I did. I mean, that's exactly why I ended up cleaning. I was just kind of like, I don't want to do that anymore. I still want to do customer service. I still want to help people. I just don't want to be in retail or, restaurant work anymore type things. And so there's still some, sometimes they just need a little breaky poo.
Yeah, I can understand that.
And, you can be empathetic to the customers and to the cleaning professionals. I mean, there's a lot of magic that can come if you can find, the right people to bring up in the organization that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you for your support, guys.
Yeah, I'm all here for it. I love hearing it all.
Yeah. So what's next? Is there anything in MaidCentral that you haven't implemented yet or you're still working on?
I just put some goals in yesterday. So I was like, okay, this is goal setting celebrating is like not my best, I'm kind of one of those get to the goal and then what's next kind of person.
That's a Tom.
You're pointing it the wrong way. Well, I don't know, but I'm thinking, I know somebody like that. Yeah. I have that same affliction, Heather.
So, I'm trying to slow down and actually like set the goals and then have a celebration for them and things like that. So I just started using the goals. There was like, I think 5 or 6 that you could set and I only put in like 2. I was like, let's just start there.
That's great. I love that.
So that's definitely one.
Are you setting these goals up in the toolbox?
Or the Spotlight dashboard.
Where did I put them?
Are you in MaidCentral? It was in your MaidCentral account?
Yes.
Okay. So it's either probably on your dashboard or on the Spotlight, which
and
I think those are connected now. So it's probably both, actually.
Yeah. I was able to click one. Yes, that's where it is, the Spotlight dashboard. So I could put my goals there, and I was like, this is really, really cool to have a software that actually lets you put your goals in, because I think a lot of times our goals are something that we're tracking on the side, right?
Yeah.
And not like actually in our software connected to the numbers to actually show you if you're succeeding. Yeah. Some other things, I am like obsessed with this beta version of the sales KPI, by the way. I just wanted to mention that. I love it.
Me too.
The consistency report is something that we just pulled. Now that reminds me on how I pulled that, but that was something that I was like, we need to make sure this is part of our level 10s on a regular basis, to be checking in and how good our consistency is. I haven't done a rate increase yet with MaidCentral, so I'm really, really, really looking forward to that. And then just to be able to
when are you going to do that, Heather?
Are you trying to hold me accountable, Tom?
Yeah,
I mean, it's free money.
Send you an email.
It is free money.
I know. So I did have a couple questions. I'm meeting with
Alvin
Yodi. I'm meeting with her, I want to say on Thursday. So I just had a couple questions and I'm going to do it Friday, Tom.
And you don't have to do it with everybody. You can run filters and just get a small number of people. Don't go crazy with it, but pick 10 customers and give them a rate increase.
I already have them listed out, the 10.
You know, there's a calculator. Are you familiar with toolbox.maidcentral.com?
No.
Okay. That's a free tool that anybody has access to. You just have to sign up. This is a different login than your MaidCentral login. So if you haven't used it before, you can create an account, but then you can create accounts for other people in your organization if you want them to be able to share the same data. But one of the things that's in there is a calculator that will show you if you do a rate increase of some percentage, you can make an assumption about losing a certain percent of those customers. It'll take into consideration based on your pay plan, if you do like a percentage pay as opposed to hourly or job ticket, it'll tell you how much money you're making. So you can actually clean fewer homes and still be making more money. Once you play with that calculator a little bit, you'll be a little more motivated to do that rate increase.
Now that you explain what it is, I think I have played with it a little bit on like some of maybe the core KPI meetings or.
Yep.
Yeah, it used to be branded corekpi.maidcentral.com. We kind of rebranded it because we've got all kinds of other tools that we've been putting in there too.
Okay. So the other thing that I really want to go through is just like the touch points and the template emails. When we started using MaidCentral, which is amazing and like so huge, that's another thing that I used to have my team doing is like they send a quote. Say they send a quote on Monday. I'd say on Tuesday, hey, did you follow up with this person? Now they had the task that they were supposed to follow up, but it's like, did they use the right text that I told them to, you know what I'm saying? So it's like
track it.
Yeah. To take all of that out. But I put them all in there when we first started using MaidCentral, and I was like, this is good enough for now. And it has been, but it's like, I want to go through and just look at them all and see where I can put a little bit more thought into them. So I don't know exactly who did I talk to. Oh, Camilla. Do not ask me to pronounce her last name, but we decided today that we were going to do like she was just at your guys' MaidCentral Academy.
Oh, yeah. Not just.
And
last week. Yes.
So we've decided that like by the end of the year, there's going to be nothing about MaidCentral that we don't know. So
wow,
that's so cool.
Unless we keep coming up with new stuff, but we're going deep.
I want you to know, Heather, a week doesn't go by that like somebody like Aja and certainly myself is like, wow, I didn't know we did that.
Okay, so maybe we're setting the bar high, but that's
I think
what
like once a month something comes up where I'm like, oh, when did that happen? It happened last week.
Well, you get the gist. Is that like I really want to study going back into the CEO role. It's like, what am I going to, I'm going to have time that I'm going to work in the business. I'm going to do my level 10s. I'm going to meet with my ops manager, my sales team, all of that fun stuff. But I really am going to focus the next, what do we got here? 8 months left of the year on high level working on my business stuff. And that includes getting very, very comfortable with MaidCentral. Maybe not as good as Aja or Austin or Tom, but like really, really good. I want to be great at it, because I know that there's so much in here that we're not utilizing and things that would be able to help me just figure out what's going good and what isn't.
And you're on a really strong growth path right now. So that's just gonna accelerate that.
Right.
Crazy. I'm excited for you.
Thank you.
I'm so excited for you to have Wednesday off. Like, give me a little teary-eyed over here because that's just freaking amazing. So,
yeah, it is
all of that.
Dreams.
And it's better than this is what I've decided. It's better than a Monday or a Friday because that kind of just blends into the weekend. And with a 3-year-old and a 1.5-year-old, it's like you don't always have. Say I had Mondays off. It's like I'm going to be tired just spending the whole weekend with them.
You're like, I need a break. Actually,
yeah, we do need breaks. So like to have that midweek, like okay, now we can go out and we can do fun stuff. And it's about to be summer here in upstate New York. We get very small amounts of nice weather. So I'm just going to soak it up and enjoy every minute I can with my babies.
I love it. I love it so much.
So tell us about MaidCentral training events. You've attended some of our stuff before, haven't you?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I was at the one in Detroit or whatever, Rochester Hills.
Yeah, Rochester,
outside of Detroit. We're going to be doing a 3-day event in Charleston in September. I think we're going to be announcing that pretty soon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think when I came the first time, it was like, whoa, this is like, because we were still pretty new. So that was in October. So I think it would benefit me to go again because, I'm going to be an expert by the end of the year. So
yeah, you can help teach.
We'll give you a segment.
Sounds good. I think that getting some time, and I think I listened to your previous guest,
Brian.
Yes.
Brian.
And I think that he said that he was happy he went so quickly. And I think for me, because of the way I learn, I was given all these really amazing learning tools with MaidCentral. But because I am who I am and like very stubborn, I like to learn everything myself and not just watch the easy videos. So I was still a little like, whoa, this is like crazy. So now that I have a really good handle on MaidCentral, I think it would be really beneficial for me to go in September. Now, will my husband agree with that? To be determined.
Right.
I guess we'll find out. Yeah, no, I think Brian is the fact that he went to a live event the week that he went live. He is in the minority in being able to really, really utilize as much of that. I think he's got a different style of brain because that would overwhelm a lot of people.
Yeah, and there was a lot of people there that were interested in the software at that time, and I'm like, I wonder how, what they took from it, but
it's definitely a different experience for people who don't use MaidCentral. It's more of like some of the operational foundation stuff that we talk about, maybe less of the features, but more about like how does this apply to my business and like what can I take from this to apply to maybe our current practices to get some of these good returns, or how do I track some of these numbers in my current software, or is this even possible with what I'm currently doing? So and getting some of the value out of it. I mean, we've had a lot of people that don't use MaidCentral get tons of value out of those live events too.
Yeah, and that's another thing about MaidCentral that I just love is like the core KPIs, because you guys help me figure out like what should I actually be paying attention to? Like what is the major things where, it's like the dashboard on your vehicle. You need to know these certain things. Now, if your car is dirty, it's like, it's something I don't love, but like if you're running out of gas, that's a pretty important thing, So being able to see that, especially going back to the CEO role at a quick glance and being like, where's the issues? That it's just amazing to have that right at your fingertips so quickly.
We're at the top of the hour.
How quickly that goes.
Yeah. Heather, you're rocking it. I am.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Seriously. You're doing something special.
Well, that means so much. Thank you.
Thank you for making us look good.
I hope I don't think that, people say, oh, you're such a MaidCentral cheerleader. I'm like, and I am.
I mean, you're making it look effortless, honestly. You're doing some great stuff, and I love the way that you're talking, like that you explain, kind of your process too, and just how you got to where you're at with MaidCentral and knowing what your goals are too. I just really enjoy being able to put that into both like objective terms and subjective terms with your family too. Like we can't make this stuff up.
And we talk about 3 stakeholders, and you're taking care of all 3 of them. Your customer attrition rate has dropped like a rock, so you're providing great service. Your employee turnover has dropped significantly, so you're making better jobs, and your revenue's grown a ton, so you're building a better business. So, I mean, you're a cheerleader, but you're making it happen. The numbers speak for themselves.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to go ahead and call it a day, I guess. We're going to wrap this, but Heather, thank you so much.
Thank you guys.
We'll be back. When will we be back? First
3 weeks.
Tuesday? Are we?
First Tuesday in May. It's the 7th. 17th. Okay. I know how to count. It's May 7th.
We're going to have a guest, and we should know who that is.
I do know who that is. It will be Kim Sandberg with Busy Bees Maid Service.
Well, Kim's fun. She did foundations with us a few weeks ago.
Yeah. I'm probably going to cry on that one. She gets me emotional.
She gets
Anyways.
Heather,
that's it. I'm just empathetic. Thank you guys.
Thank you so much, guys.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.